So hello friends, today I want to talk about what happens in the first semester in IISER Pune. So in the first semester we have like many courses, the fundamental courses, and all of them are compulsory. So what's the structure of the degree of BSMS in IISER Pune? It is that the degree is divided into 4-5 parts. So the first 3 semester we have to take the compulsory courses. Right, these courses are not optional; these are compulsory. And after the third semester onwards, we can choose our courses. If I want to study like computational biology and data science and physics, I can do that. I can pick, I want these courses of physics, I want these courses of computational biology, I want these courses of data science. I can design a degree according to that. And these are called as electives. And all the courses after the third semester are electives. And there are also a major minor system that if you have completed a certain number of courses in a certain department, you get a major degree out of them, and a minor, they have criteria according to them. And if you have not fulfilled any criteria of any department, you get a general degree of a BSMS, right? So in the first semester, the fundamental courses that I have was a biology course, physics course, chemistry course, mathematics course, uh, earth and climate sciences course, chemistry course. I think I've covered it. Then we have transdisciplinary courses like academic communication, that's called ACS, and intro to computing. So we were introduced to computing methods, and we were taught a programming language which was Python, right? And besides all these courses, we have 2 lab courses. One was the fundamental of physics labs, and the other was the biology lab courses. So I will explain in detail what goes all around in the serious academics of IISER Pune. So if I talk about the physics course, it was called PH 1113, and it was called the Introduction to Mechanics course. So what we do in it, it is divided into 2 parts, right? We have 2 parts of this course. The first part of the course covers is the classical mechanics, the Newtonian mechanics, and we get further around it, that's called the Lagrangian mechanics. So we learn how Lagrangian mechanic works, how we can write energy expression and all, and how we can solve all the questions which we have done in 11th and 12th class in mechanics, in 11th standard specifically, of the Newton mechanics, of all the IDE equations and all. How can we approach them in a better way, in an alternate approach, which is called Lagrangian mechanics, right? So we learned about that. Then we learned and ventured into vectors. As we know, physics ventures around vectors. So we learned a little bit of vector calculus, gradient, divergence, curl, other theorems, other things. And it's not vector at 11th, 12th level. It's a higher advanced level. Then what we learned was something very close to my heart. That is special relativity. So we learned all the basic fundamentals of special relativity. How position and time are related in space and all those concepts. The second part of the course was focused much more on the wave side of things. So first we learned classical mechanics part 1, then this wave mechanics, right? And so what in that we learn is you learn something called as a wave, about the wave equation, about normal modes, about harmonic modes, about oscillations in general. The course was called as Oscillation and Waves. The free sample of the course is there on YouTube. You can all get your hands into it. It's called Oscillation and Waves, and it was shot in collaboration with NPTEL by IISER Pune, and the faculty that took it, the instructor was MS Sanatanam, I guess. So you can look at it and look what the content is all about. Right. The thing which I loved most about the course was N-coupled oscillator, and it was a very fascinating concept, and it was something new. I liked venturing more into normal modes and stuff, and it was good. Like we also learned about Lagrange's figures and all, more detail about system, waves, wave equations and all, which cover fundamental if you want to learn quantum mechanics in second semester, third semester onwards. This was the physics course all about. The chemistry course was very fundamental, I guess. It was called Basics of Organic Chemistry, and it was just a recap of 11th and 12th we have learned, although it ventures in the slightly higher concept which were not there in 11th and 12th standard, particularly about the molecular orbital approaches of all the reaction and the mechanisms we have all studied. So it goes into basics like the structure of organic compounds, the enantiomer, the isomerism side of it, the conformation side of it, the structural side of it, Then we venture into the effects in organic chemistry. Then we venture into reaction mechanisms and stuff. It was a basic course. If you are thorough with your IIT concepts of 11th and 12th of organic chemistry specifically, you will ace the course, right? But you have to still learn in detail. So if the plus 2 level is something like this, the level of which you study organic chemistry is like this. It's slightly above. So the things which you have memorized, that this thing happened this and this reaction happened with this, we learn the reasons of it. We venture deep into how the exact mechanism is playing out in a spanning of way, right? And that's very crucial to learn about in the course. And it was an application based course. We are specifically venturing into the stereochemistry of each reaction, stereospecificity, regiospecificity, like these concepts, right? And this was quite fun and easy. You can ace the course, I guess. The next course was the mathematics course, and it was called a calculus 1 course. And it started with functions, relation, and stuff like that, and then goes into limits, continuity, differentiability. And it was the first part of the course, which is called differential calculus 1, and the second part of the course was integral calculus, where we started with the defining of the limit of an integral. We do stuff like Riemann sum and Riemann integral, and then we move on to defining complex function integrals and stuff. And then we studied some basic techniques of integration that we have, solving definite and indefinite integration. And finally, the application of integration, which is area under the curve. And we also studied the volume made by curves. So if you have 3 curves and you want to find the volume which is made by intersecting these curves, we'll study about that in detail, right? So it was a slightly above the plus 2 level. But if you are focused and good about all the theorems and stuff of plus 2 level, be it intermediate value theorem or stuff like that, you can ace the course, provided you studied. And we studied it from Thomas calculus. The chemistry, by the way, we studied from Claydon, which is a standard textbook in organic chemistry, right? And it builds your basics really well, right? So this was physics and chemistry and maths. So the course which is very close to my heart is the biology course. I really loved it. It was called as the introduction to biology, I guess. Whatever it's called, then nothing matters. The first part of the course was taken by a really esteemed professor who goes by the name L.S. Shashidhar. So L.S. Shashidhar, he is like a really great scientist, and you can all go and read about him. He has a Wikipedia page and stuff, and what researchers he have done. So this first course about what biology specifically is, how biology can solve the problems of around us that we see. What life is, and venture into some more philosophical questions like that. This was the initial part of the course. Then Professor Girish Ratnaparvi, who is the Dean of Academics of IISER Pune, he has taken the second part of the course where he ventured into molecular biology specifically. So he started with central dogma, explaining what central dogma is, then going into all the concept that you know all around it, transcription and translation, but going into extremely detail. So if the plus 2 level is here, the level which he's taught was here. So it was a really fantastic course. He never told us to memorize this. He every time gave us logics of things, every time gave us what is research going on here, and it was a fascinating course, I would say. Got to learn a lot. Then the part that he teach was Ramchandran plot, protein structure, protein folding, and stuff like that. It was really fascinating. And finally, he ventured into genetics, Mendelian genetics, and how Mendelian genetics is actually incomplete and how modern genetics is spanning out, and that he also taught us. Then the third part of the course was taken by Professor Nagraj, and he is also a very esteemed professor in IISER Pune, and he taught us cell biology. So first part was molecular biology, and before that what biology is all about, then it is about cell biology. So he started with the concepts of how cell evolved to be, how life evolved to be, and then venture deep into the intricate mechanisms that happens inside the living organism cells. What all cellular machinery is there, and how proteins and all give out the complexity of the cell which we possess discovering concept like redundancy, which we have never heard about in the +2 level. We just memorized it, like we in the cell we have these organelles and they function like this and they have this membrane and stuff like that. But this is not about memorization, it's about understanding how the different mechanisms inside the cell is playing out to be that and orchestrate itself in a very complex mechanism that is called cell, right? This was all about the biology course. Then I have a ECS course which I have not enjoyed that much and I have not paid much attention to, I would admit that. So the course started with talking about what Earth's structure is made up of, what are rocks, different types of rocks, how rocks came up to be, and it's get really dark into rocks and stuff. The second part of the course was much more interesting. It was related to how life originated to be in the earth, how it spanned out, how dinosaurs got evolved, how fossils got built and stuff like that, which is much more interesting. But the first part of the course was quite boring. I had not enjoyed it. Seriously talking about, guys. Then about the transdisciplinary courses, which are not exactly scientific courses per to say, but they are very important for you to learn about them. The first was the academic communication course, and it was the best course I've ever taken. It was not an English course per to say, but it was all about improving your communication. Maybe it's spoken communication, it's written communication, it's reading, it's about writing, it's about writing things like a CV, a cover letter, uh, your your letter of recommendation, about letter of recommendation, your letter of interest, how you give interviews, how you give presentations and stuff, how you deliver guest lectures, how you talk to people, how you behave in seminars and conferences, and how you do scientific writing, scientific journalism and stuff about all that. It also teaches us concepts of grammar, of writing and all stuff. And it was the best course I've ever taken. It taught us really great about academic communication, what it is all about. And the most useful part of it was actually email writing. So before that, before coming to IISER Pune, I never used email. But after coming to IISER Pune, you have to everything goes on in email, right? When your classes will be, when your tutorials will be, when your exams will be, everything communicated by emails, and we have to also send emails to professors and TAs and all stuff like that. So email writing was a skill that I developed, and that was like really useful because you need to write emails, and that was something that I take home with. And also something like how you give a guest introduction, how you give a speech, how you like give a presentation, a PPT presentation, like in front of people. And there were exercises that we were made to do that, right? And that was like really fascinating. How you do review writing and stuff like that. So it was really fascinating course. I would say it's the best course I've ever taken in IISER. Even I would put it above all the scientific courses like biology and stuff, which I really like. Then there was a computing course, Introduction to Computing. So we were introduced to what's computing all about, how it comes computing and all. And more specifically, we started with learning Python language. We used Jupyter Notebook for that, and we learned Python language. And it was really difficult for me to grasp that course because actually I've never studied computer and programming and stuff in my school time, so it was really new for me, and those concepts were really hard to digest. But if you do enough hard work, I think you will get it at the end, because Python is really hard on logic side of things, but the syntax is relatively I think simpler to learn. It's mostly English, and that was good about it. The last things which is unique in IISER Pune experience is the experience you get in labs and working in labs. So the first lab course was biology lab, and we learned all the basic practicals. Like the first was about microscope. The first session was supposed to be like disassembling a microscope, then assembling it back, so you know all the intricacies which happen inside a microscope. But we were like instructed about microscopy, different types of microscopy, biconfocal microscopes, different parts in microscopes, simple, compound microscopes, other forms of microscope. What are the actual concepts, scientific concepts, Rayleigh criteria, limit of resolution and stuff like that, which we happens and which we have to study in microscope. The second part of the course was, and then we do experiments like gram staining, uh, and there were some genetic experiments as well. And the last, which I liked a lot, was the neurobiological experiment, neuroscience experiments, and neuroscience was like really fun. And that was our biology lab. Then we got to study physics lab, and physics lab, I think the infrastructure and all the lab equipments were really good. We were given great freedom to use equipments as we want and do the design experiments. We were told to do some standard experiments, like the verifying the inverse square law for light intensity, like calculating the speed of sound and waves, like using Kunz tube, like uh, torsional pendulum, compound pendulum, viscosity, and experiments like that, right? So I would recall there were in total 10 experiments, and some were really hectic, some were easy, and most experiments were fun. The skills that we developed, we needed to use a lot of Python programming to like do the calculation and to make graphs of the experiments that we do, to analyze the data that we have produced during the experiment. And yeah, it gave us motivation to learn Python in another course, and that was all about it. It really brushed our data analysis skills. So we have not formally learned data analytics or data science, but I think that the physics course was really data heavy, and we need to analyze equation, we need to find the constant values, and we need to like curve fit things. We need to do statistical analysis on the data, and it was all fun, right? So these were all the courses that we have in the first semester. Second semester we have two maths courses like linear algebra and calculus 2, where we delve into 3D form of calculus, which is basically calculus 2, called multivariable calculus. Then we have a solid earths course, which is really nice. It is the ECS course, Earth and Climate Sciences courses, and it goes into physics about the solid of the earth, the mechanics in the earth's crust and stuff. So we learn about seismic waves and all, and it's really fascinating. The next course that I am taking currently is physical chemistry. So the Atkins is the book that I am currently reading, and I guess it's a little different from the physical chemistry we learn in plus one, plus two, because it's really similar to quantum chemistry, I say. So so presently we are learning quantum mechanics. Uh, in biology, the course is biochemistry course. It's an introductory biochemistry course, where we learn protein, and so we started with protein, and let's see how it goes about as well. So we have biology, we have chemistry, we have earth and climate science course, maths courses, and the physics course is a electrodynamics course, and Griffiths is a book I'm referring to, and it's really fun. In engineering, in science, both electrodynamics is really important. So yeah, something related to plus one and plus two, I'm rushing into those concepts, and yeah, going really deep into it, going really mathematically deep into those concepts and how they come from the first principles in electrostatics and electrodynamics, right? We have physics, chemistry, maths, biology, earth and climate science, I told you. Then there's a history of science course, and there's a lab course called chemistry practicals, general practicals, and we are doing some chemistry practicals. The first practical was related to titration, the second practical was Lambert's law, and the third practical that I did, and it was actually related to stereochemistry. So we need to like we have studied like levorotatory and dextrorotatory compounds, like in a polarimeter, that and there's polarization and stuff. So we are doing experiments on that, and that is this stuff. And this is all about the academics that we face in IISER Pune, and it's really fun to learn all those things by the scientists, those who are doing those experiments in the lab, and that's really fascinating, and that's all about it. Meet you guys all in another video. I would like to subscribe this channel, like this video, and share it with your friends to tell how academics goes into good colleges in India, and how science is being pursued in those institutes, and that's all about it. Thank you guys.